So I think job one this morning. How is it? Let's start with hearts. Where's Heart Sutra? Heart Sutra. Hello, where are you? Here we go. Let's start with Heart Sutra. Back to work. We finally have a beautiful day, huh? Okay. In Sanskrit, Bhagavati Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. In Tibetan, Chomden Dema Shera Parchin Buddha. In English, Blessed Lady Buddha, Transcendent Wisdom Heart Sutra. Thus did I hear on a certain occasion the Blessed Lord was dwelling on the vulture peak at Rajagriha to get great communities of mendicants and bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed Lord entranced himself in the teaching samadhi called illumination of the just then the noble bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, was realizing the profound transcendence of wisdom. He realized that his five-body-mind processes are void of intrinsic reality. Thereupon, moved by the Buddha's power, Venerable Shariputra addressed the noble bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero. Thus, when a son wants to engage in learning the profound transcendence of wisdom, how should he practice? Then the noble bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, addressed Venerable Shariputra. Thus Shariputra, any noble son or noble daughter wishes to engage in the practice of the profound transcendence of wisdom, he or she should realize it in this way. These five-body-mind processes should be truly realized to be void of intrinsic reality. Matter is voidness. Voidness is matter. Voidness is not other than matter. Neither is matter other than voidness. Likewise, sensations, conceptions, mental functions, and consciousnesses are also void. Shariputra, thus all things are voidness, signless, uncreated, unsustainless, impact, decreased, and Ariputra, thus in voidness there are no matter, no sensation, no conception, no mental function, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mental, no form, no sound, no scent, no taste, no texture, no idea. There are no sense media from eye to mentality, sense media. There are no consciousness media from visual to mental consciousness medium. Either there are no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance, and so on up to no old age and death, and no cessation of old age and death either. Likewise, there are no suffering, no origination, no cessation, no path, no intuitive wisdom, attainment, and no non-attainment either. Therefore, Shariputra, because the Bodhisattva is without attainment, she lives in reliance on transcendent wisdom. His spirit is unobscured and free of fear, confusion. She ultimately succeeds in nirvana, and all the Buddhas who live in past, present, and future rely on transcendent wisdom to reach manifestly perfect Buddhahood in unexcelled enlightenment. Such beings, so there is the mantra of transcendent wisdom, the mantra of great science, the unexcelled mantra, the uniquely universal mantra, the mantra that ends all suffering. It is not false unto as truth, the transcendent wisdom mantra as follows: Tadyata Om Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha Om Gate Gate Para. Excellent, noble son, so it is, so it is. One should practice the profound transcendence of wisdom just the way you have taught it, and even the transcendent Buddhas will joyfully congratulate you when the Blessed Lord had spoken. The Venerable Shariputra, the noble Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, and everyone in that audience, and the whole world with its gods, humans, titans, and fair rejoiced and all applauded what the Buddha said, and for anything negative like goodbye, take a hike, om gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaha. Okay, now next, back to the sadhana. First, before we go back to the sadhana, of course, job one today is to work toward the short sadhana. And the short sadhana was started to be done from the nice typing of Kim, and up to a certain point, I then extracted from that exactly only what was in the little red book, which I left in the trunk of the car brilliantly. Never mind, I don't need it right now. Anyway, the little red book, which is the sadhana that the Tibetans are taught to do. It's in the Book of Common Prayer. You could say the red book, little red book printed in Dharamsala by the information office. And but I didn't get that finished. But then what I made for you, which you have as a Xerox, has these longer things in it. And what I will do, while this is fresh, maybe I will do it this afternoon after it's over, after the puja is over, is I will move out the things that are lengthy that could be optional at some time, and just keep, like for example, what you have now, like you have these really long cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-nya, vajragandhe-gandharchanam kuru-kuru swaha, because I brought it over from the long sadhana. So you'd see what it was, creating the way you create the 12 offering goddesses, okay? But I will move that in the back as like an optional thing to the back, and we'll just have one short sentence where you go, Argam Padyam Purbe Dube Alake Gente Navida Chapta Pratija Hum Swaha, or whatever it is, or Kuru Kuru Swaha. So we'll just have a really short thing like that, which you will do, you can do regularly. And then some of these verses on pages 5 and 6 we will leave, and maybe I will bracket some of them as they had it in one of the booklets that they gave out, where you can do this sometimes and not do it sometimes, but it's good to keep it there. Then the mantras Shunyata Jnana Vajra I will leave, and then with the creation of the mandala, we will have the original universe creation, this paragraph on page 7 at the top, and then we will have much less description of the Vajra Pavilion. We'll just say, then there's the Vajra Pavilion. So it'll only be like one sentence, which is like a page and a half paragraph now. And then where you have all this, we will not have all this description of the 12 lotuses in the body mandala, the 8 lotuses in the speech mandala. We'll ignore that. And we'll just mention body mandala and speech mandala. And then maybe with a number of deities in it. Or I can leave it in the back, or you have the long one anyway already on the thing. So there'll be this like whole page 7 and 8 will be like 4 lines. And then creating the residence, this whole 5 enlightenment process of creating the central deity and yourself will skip. And I'll fit it back to what exactly is in the Tibetan book, where they just say, you arise instantaneously as the Kālachakra father, mother, blah, blah, blah. The letter Ham transforms me into the glorious Kālachakra, something like, it's basically all that is. And then next, the full description of the 8 Shaktis won't be there, just their names. And, just as names, again, one sentence. And then this whole thing about the deities coming and streaming in, going out will not be there, but the mind mandala deities will just be named. Like down here on page 10, toward the bottom of the page, second to last paragraph, it says, and Vajra create green Akshobhya, faces green, red, white, 6 arms. Vajra chopper, axe, celeste, bell, kavala, brahma, amethyst, lotus, embraced by prajna, paramita. And abides indivisibly with my own body. But I might not put the full description, just say green Akshobhya comes and emanates and then embraces in my body. So naming the couples of the black Amoga Siddhi and Tara, united with yellow Lochana and Vairochana, just naming them. So you sort of can place them around the mind mandala around you, just like you just kind of place the 8 Shaktis. And the larger descriptions in the longer sadhana you could refer to when you're feeling like a little mini retreat some weekend or whatever, when you're really bored with whatever else is going on in between, like Netflix, multi-session, sensate episodes, that awesome Wachowski sisters creation that everybody should watch. And then, so it'll be like that. And bodhisattvas will just be named, so they'll all be in like one paragraph or one set of lines, you know. And then this compassion thing just will be very brief. They stream in, they stream out. I say, actually, whatever's there, I'll do that. Okay? And this awakening thing. And then a lot of this other stuff will not be there. So you can do that. But we can't do that this second. I couldn't do it last night. I meant to, but I didn't get around to it. So, and then the mantras, the list of mantras I might put there, but bracketing other than the main mantras, which are, up to 16, 15, 16, 17 will not be there. These 3 mantras, Om Sarva Tathagata Vakvajra, the Om Sarva Tathagata Kaya Vajra Sabhavat Makoham, Om Sarva Tathagata Vakvajra Sabhavat Makoham, Om Sarva Tathagata Chitta Vajra, Om Sarva Tathagata Kaya Vak Chitta Vajra. Those will be there. And, but just the mantras, none of the description. And drop yoga, I don't know if I'll bother with that. But this mantra will be there. Om Sarva Tathagata Anuragana Vajra Swabhavat Makoham. And Om Sarva Tathagata Adipati Vajra Sattva Handra Danda Damaka Hom Pe Swaha. That will be there. And then the mantras. That'll be it. It might be like 3 pages or something. Okay? So now, we're going back to the foundation. So please go into meditative mode. What we're going to do this morning. Please go into meditative mode. And I will include in what I send the 3 principal paths. And so that's what I want you to meditate right now. Okay, so first starting, you think about your guru, which is the Dalai Lama, and His Holiness Dalai Lama, and you think about whatever your vision of him is, and setting in your mind that he, in this context, is indivisible from Kālachakra, father, mother, whatever you're seeing in your mind's eye, in the space above, and in the mandala, and whatever your sort of sense of the mandala universe sitting there in front of you or something like that. And that's the guru. And then, but he's aware of you. And you feel grateful, and you feel the graciousness, you feel the field, you remember imagining whenever you were close to him how it felt. That's where you start. And behind him, stretching up toward infinity, the lineage of all the Buddhas, etc., Shambhala, the kings of Shambhala, Kālachakra, whatever it is. All the great Indian pundits, the great Tibetan masters, and so on. Then you reflect on how precious you are, how precious your moments of time are. What a huge success you are of having become a human being. And what is your evolutionary nature as a human being? And how lucky it is you're not any kind of other animal, or deity, or titan, or preta, or hell being. And you're this amazing human. And whatever your gender, how lucky that you're beyond that and could be either, but whatever you are, that's great also. And if you're lucky enough to be female, how superior that is. And how you should feel no compunction about correcting anything that seems to be male chauvinist. Like your chakras and whatever. And remember, there's always red bodhicitta as well as white bodhicitta and the subtle body of the yogin, perfection stage yogin. Female element as well as male in every body. Okay? And really feel good about yourself for that reason, not because of your looks, not because of your possessions, not because of your relationships, not because of this or that, but because you are this amazing human with this amazing sensitivity, self-critical awareness, analytic insight. You're just amazing. And you're also lucky to be in a world where there are Buddha, there has been Buddha, there have been many who have realized Buddhahood. There may be some now present who are Buddhahood, and all of those who are like that from an infinite past, which doesn't therefore limit the number of such beings, they all feel they are you now. And somehow what your Buddha nature is your sense of connection to them. Feel that and overcome this notion, which is the underlying structure, the Abrahamic structure of our culture, that somehow you're this lowly worm and then there's this great being somewhere else that somehow made you and put you through these hoops, and anything you feel about yourself as you are great is a sin. Satan is some kind of pride against the great deity who is out there. That's the dualistic idea of the Abrahamic traditions, except for their mystical parts. And it's therefore underlying our culture, and even in the materialist culture, underlying is that the absolute is nothing, and it's the great final peace, and we are naturally crawling around trying to avoid pain as best we can and failing ultimately until we become nothing. So there's also a dualism of a great absolute of nothing outside there, elsewhere. I was just thinking when we read that, it says matter is voidness, voidness is matter, matter is not other than voidness. I think I can translate the other almost better, more graphically, by saying matter is not elsewhere than voidness. Voidness is not elsewhere than matter. I think making it a locational term might be good. Instead of other, the alternative Kālachakra, the word is just other, but we call it alternative in that case, to emphasize that. So enjoy your marvelousness, then think about your death, face it, bring death on board as an advisor, as Don Juan used to say to Carlos Castaneda, advising you about what is important about life, in other words, the immediacy of death, that it could be any time, and that when it comes, it is your soul that goes on, which is the genetic code of your spiritual openness versus closedness, basically. It's whether the code is open, relating to open-heartedness, and you therefore will seek a more open-hearted form of embodiment, or it's closed, and you will be paranoidly seeking a more closed form of embodiment. That's the key. So everything about your practice, your top priority in life, is always keeping your mind and heart and hands open, keeping and nervous system. And as a yogi, it's opening your channels in the nervous system. And that gets encoded, whatever degree of that you live in. You are yourself, and yourself is open. And whatever degree you live in that, by being altruistic, by having bodhicitta, then to that degree, you're safe, actually, at the deepest inner level. You're close to the clear light of the void. You're living the relativity as an absolute, in other words, as it's the whole as an absolute, not any one piece. True relativity. Then you think about, therefore, any other future existence you might aim at will also be imperfect, any future relative existence, and how difficult it is to open yourself and to save lives and not take lives as opposed to taking lives, to give gifts as opposed to taking away others' properties, to be completely open in sensuality as opposed to grabbing pleasure for yourself, to be completely truthful as opposed to creating false worlds through lies, to being completely peacemaking between others as opposed to, causing dissension among others. to try to get more attention to yourself, to truly speak meaningfully as opposed to babble meaninglessly, and to truly speak sweetly as opposed to speaking harshly, and to be truly generous in mind and detached and renunciate as opposed to being greedy and covetous, to being truly loving and tolerant as opposed to being malicious and angersome and irritable, and being truly realistic and connected to relativity as opposed to being enclosing yourself in some rigid worldview. Those are the tenfold path of openness and closedness, which we would think of as ethics, and how difficult it is to stay on the open end of that kind of spectrum. So thinking those two things, then decide that the best way of opening is to think of liberation and nirvana all the time and make that your priority and not just a better worldly situation. Although it doesn't mean those are not priority, a better worldly situation, but they are priorities, and there's a hierarchy of priorities among them, but they are not the highest priority. Highest priority is liberation, nirvana, freedom. Total openness, in other words. That's the highest priority, because that's where that's following your bliss, the true bliss, not the temporary one, the real one, the one that comes out of reality, realistic bliss. And then you are renunciant. You are transcendently renunciant. And then you feel better. And you don't worry that, well, I'm not getting to here on time, or I'm not getting that done, or I got to go here and do the other, and I got to go see that one, and I have this duty, the other one. And those things you're all going to still do, but you'll be more relaxed about them because they're not your top priority. Your top priority is to remember nirvana at all times. Remember that it's accessibility. Remember its closeness. Remember it's closer to you than, as they say in Islam, closer to you than your own jugular vein. Great things the Sufis say. I think they even say it in the Quran, actually. Allah is closer to you than your own jugular. That's the openness side in the Abrahamics. And that's the mystic side. Okay, so then you transcend. Then you're feeling better. Then the little thing trickles up from your navel chakra, and you're into your heart chakra, and trickles down from your brain into your heart chakra. And you feel kind of as if the clamp, the clamp around your heart that they left in at birth, the forceps that have been like dangling around your heart, constricting its beating, squeezing your lungs and making you feel uptight in life and anxious. You feel like a little bit of release of that. Like somebody took an x-ray and they saw there was a clamp around your heart and your lungs, and you were feeling squished in life and therefore anxious, and you feel a little ease in the heart center. And then the minute you do, you completely become sensitive to the dis-ease, the uneasiness in the hearts of those around you, mostly, except for your Vajra brothers and sisters, true Vajra brothers and sisters who have the same openness orientation that you are cultivating. And you therefore realize how much they are suffering, and you see them rushing off, putting the wrong thing in top priority, thinking that's going to make them happy, rushing after things that are addictive and will make them unhappy and wreck their evolutionary trajectory, and you generate true compassion. And then you realize that only if you become fully enlightened are you going to be able to help them. So you want to become fully enlightened. Yes, you know, you have a sense of there are all these Buddhas who are helping them already, but they don't, it seems to you like the ones you know about are not being helped enough. There's too much suffering still. So you're going to take responsibility for them yourself. And you're going to become a Buddha for their sake. And then that you create the bodhicitta, the mental level of conceptual level of bodhicitta. And then when you make a vow, it becomes the deep inner motivation level when you took your bodhisattva vow. And then You realize in order to realize that's transcendence that you renounced about, that you put as your high priority, to realize this ability to help others in a truly effective and surefire way, you need wisdom. You acknowledge to yourself that deep in your gut there's some sense inside yourself of a real intrinsically identifiable, intrinsic identity bearing you, an identity habit mongering you. And you do feel that. Even they can say selflessness or supreme self, the great self, not the little self. They can say all these kind of things. And you agree with them mentally, but viscerally, no. Someone comes up and steps on your toe and you react from this visceral, like, I'm really here and don't step on my toe. So acknowledging that to yourself, look for it, verify it, do the 4 keys. Actually, first acknowledge it. Second, either I'll find it or I won't find it, no third option. Third, I find it as part of what I can be aware of in my 5 aggregates of body, sensation, conception, emotion, and consciousness. I can't find it as the same thing. And then I can't find it as a separate thing that is sort of unchanging absolute me that somehow has strings attached to my changing processes and aggregates. And when I really look consciously and critically and analytically, but paired with one-pointed penetrating concentration, I enter into space like equipoise samadhi, where I let go. I even confront a fear of nothingness, a visceral fear of it. I know nothing is nothing intellectually, but a visceral fear I still have that everything might be nothing. I don't want to be nothing. It's not that bad. And yet let go anyway. And then finding the emptiness, which is actually the relativity, cancels the nothing. Sees that nothing is empty of being nothing. And we're back in all the illusory relative things. So there's no fear of nothing. Therefore, no fear of death. And back in the illusory, dreamlike world, able to access a kind of space world, but not get attached to a space world as an elsewhere emptiness from matter, which it isn't. It's just itself a very important relative experience, overcoming fear of nothing, overcoming fear of death, and realizing relativity. And once fully realizing relativity, realizing that there can be the most exquisite relativity, which is the love relativity, which is where you just overflow with love, immeasurable love. And then beings resonate with that, and the potential, the human potential for immeasurable love is activated in all the beings. You see them as all beautiful. Love is in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. When you love a being, they are beautiful. And you love all beings, and they're all beautiful. And that's possible. As still a relativity. A form we can conceive of conceptually called a Buddha is also a relativity, but it's the best relativity. And once relativity is infinite and endless, not eternal in a fixed, unchanging way, but eternal in a continuum way, which is the word meaning of Tantra, then you want to make things optimal, the relativity as optimal as possible, bringing all your loved beings into it, expanding the number of your loved beings as a bodhisattva, loving all of the beings, even your enemies. And this makes you want to practice Kālachakra. Okay? So this is the foundation of it. This makes it logical to practice Kālachakra. This makes it logical to again and again rehearse the death process, the bardo process, and the rebirth process. In that every night you fall deep asleep, and you associate that with entering the clear light of sleep, merging the clear light of sleep with the clear light of death, merging the clear light of sleep and death with the clear light of Buddhahood, becoming a Vajra being every single night. Then the dream, you merge the clear light of the dream with the clear light of the bardo, driven around like unconsciously, even like the shrinks kind of will tell you that you don't want to lucidly dream because you want your unconscious to pop up to you in the dream. There's some psychiatry type people who have that attitude, that it would be bad to be lucidly dreaming all the time because then you couldn't get informed about the state of your unconscious by things popping up that you don't expect, which is valid actually on the level that they're working. But you want to be lucid completely, and you want to but you have to deal with all those surprises in meditation. You have to find your dark side. You have to find your traumas and your fears and your things. And you do that as a Kālachakra. You confront them as a Vajravega in meditative. And so you mingle the bardo of meditation with the bardo of actually death and rebirth, and with the Sambhogakaya of the Buddha. And it's all the being in the illusion-like, dream-like, aftermath samadhi-like sense of being the continuum of the previous, identity habit holding indivisible self, and melting into infinite oneness with all Buddha's selves, all completely wide open selves, which only is achieved through the great bliss, through the total orgasmic bliss of the whole universe is orgasm, meaning open to each other, every atom open to the next one, every cell, every molecule, every being. That's the Sambhogakaya. It's that event horizon, that non-duality of emptiness and matter, and the ultimate matter that is completely open to its own emptiness and therefore able to relate to other matter, which is actually the reality of it. That's why things do. The strong force of the universe is the clear light. That's truly what the strong force is. And it's actually the virtual equivalent of love, in the sense that it is a level or a fabric or a field of infinite energy, inexhaustible energy, that is abundantly available to anything that needs energy. And of course, all sensitive beings that need energy, they need it for happiness. They need it for avoiding of pain. And so therefore the foundation of reality is love. Meaning giving of whatever every being needs, every sensitive being needs. So that's the Sambhogakaya practice. And then anything that seems to be back into more solid individual, differentiated, different things, which are even seen habitually where my perspective on them seems to be the real one. Like when I see something from one angle, it seems like that's what the thing is, and not seeing it from all angles. One comes back in that, in interacting with the beings there, and then therefore the waking state and the rebirth life state and the nirmanakaya, emanation body of the Buddha, altruistically interrelating with other beings in whatever way serves them optimally, at least as the ideal, as the way that, as the measure, as the standard that one sets. That's the nirmanakaya. So death, between and birth are connected with dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, nirmanakaya, reality body or truth body, bliss body or beatific body, and emanation body, magical emanation body. Okay? So now we could turn to our sadhana, but not looking at a piece of paper, in your mind. I think to yourself, I will give some credibility, at least consciously, but maybe not pretending I wholly do so in my unconscious, but consciously, I will take refuge that there has been somebody in history, in an infinite past history, in some world or another, who has completely achieved the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, at least somebody, actually infinite numbers of somebodies, given infinity and a continuum being beginningless. So I will take refuge in the awareness of those and the teachings and the helpful activities and the miracles of that somebody. I will take refuge in the reality that somebody fused with experientially and therefore has the abilities that are a tribute to that somebody of helping others and therefore being helpful to me. I will take refuge in the community of those who are oriented toward that reality and toward that one who was aware of that reality, who understood that reality and was able to provide methods for us to understand it, all the while admitting no one can fully explain it. No one can express it. It's inconceivable, actually. Not pretending to be somehow omnipotent about it. That was a relief. So that's a refuge. Then I meditate, I realize that I am interconnected with everybody else. I am subjected to their vibes. I am interwoven with them. In previous lives, I've been one body with them. I've been in their wombs when they were mothers, mammal mothers, human, and especially human mothers also. So I'm completely flesh and blood and spirit and mind and energy totally interwoven with other beings. And therefore, in order to find the bliss of nirvana and experience it and feel it, all of them have to do so. I have to bring them all with me. I have to help them find it. Even if there's no omnipotent way of doing so, I have to get as close to that as I can. What a Buddha is, what I call omnicompetent. Not omnipotent, but omnicompetent. That's the Bodhisattva vow. And I'm going to do that all my life. No separation, absolutely do that. Then, next, I imagine. I join in millions of people, actually, having imagined this omnicompetent being as the best possible mother, father, helper, protector, teacher, exemplar, model, for me to model myself toward. And I realize the Buddhist cure for idolatry is realizing that any image of this Buddha being is of a being who's completely shared itself with me, with everyone. So this omnicompetent being becomes omnicompetent by the body of reality, including everybody. So whatever I imagine the Buddha as, in a way, is instantaneously shared with me, because that's the awareness of such a being. And so, seeing again my Guru, indivisible from Kālachakra, Father, Mother, which is what I'm visualizing, this omnicompetent, omnicompassionate, omniscient being, omniscient by being everything, not by being able to express it or describe it, but by being it. So that is me. That's actually the initiation, is that sort of ritual or ceremonial, contemplative enacting of the ultimate being imaginable, expressing that it feels one with me. So that is the instantaneous self-creation or self-generation as the one-faced, two-armed Kālachakra, the blue Kālachakra at the beginning of the sadhana. Right? You recognize that in the shortest sadhana. There you are. And then, while being able to hold the paradoxical cognitive dissonance of affirming that at least one of the partners, me and the Kālachakra Father Mother, Guru, indivisible, in front of me, one of us as partners feels one, that I and it are the same. But acknowledging that I don't feel one, but I want to feel one, but I don't, then I feel the blessing come to me. But, I want to reach out to that, though. And the way of opening myself is by giving everything. So I imagine these deities that are there somewhere in my unconscious, these exquisite goddesses. You could throw in some male gods, a few trans people, a few androgynes, whatever you like. The chauvinist cultures, they practice having goddesses come out because they have to be the waitresses. We're going to have some waiters. We have some like Baryshnikov level dancing waiters coming out holding bowls of mango nectar, holding elixirs, holding for the food, playing violin, Bach, solos, concertos, playing, doing rock and roll, whatever, all of the music and scents, the most magnificent perfumes and ointments and unguents and flowers, beautiful flowers, orchids and whatever you can think of, and magnificent robes and textures, silken brocades and whatever it is. And imagining just floods of these going toward this Kālachakra Father Mother. Sort of everything I can possibly think of as something beautiful and exquisite and desirable, offering it. And so one does that kind of offering sequence. As elaborate as you want to make it, you can read Shantideva's chapter there, where he imagines even taking those Kālachakra Father Mother and the Guru to a spa and putting them in a beautiful far infrared sauna and like having the best masseurs and masseuses, pulling out all the pains and things from any kind of, or just adding to their bliss, whatever way. A Dewa spa, a Dewa Chembo spa, a Mahasukha spa. Imagine that. Offering medicines, offering buildings, offering beautiful architecture, offering whatever it is, countries, planets, giving them. So you go through a meditation like that. And this makes you feel connected to the object of your generosity. And then you reflect about any negativities that you have in your past karmas. And in a way, if it's given the past is infinite, we have all of them, all of us. We have that dark side that's as dark as anybody's dark side. And we have it sort of all in an infinite past, and therefore there's potential in our own unconsciousness. And we decide we don't want it, and we want to. That's how we will improve. That's how we will become like the Kālachakra Father Mother, by getting rid of all negativity in ourselves. So we repent it and we confess it to the Kālachakra assembly of all the deities around the Father Mother central one. And that's one verse that we recite like that. Everything negative that I did, I caused others to do, or I admired others as doing, I set it aside. I drop it into emptiness. I see it through it. I see its transparency. Actually, I see it was just clear light anyway. It's actually the only quote-unquote kind of absolution. But anyway, I get rid of it. I resolve to get rid of it. Then I think, but my guru became a Buddha. Kālachakra, Shakyamuni became a Kālachakra, created such a magnificent art form of total competence, mastering time and space, turning it into a mandala of optimal evolutionary positivity for beings. And I rejoice in their achievement. I have no jealousy. I restrict myself. And any achievement of anybody, any good thing that everybody did, I rejoice in it. And then I share in the joy that they have of doing it, and the merit that they achieve of doing it. So that is that verse. And then I request, of course, this omniaccompanying, don't just lounge around in the clear light, please. Manifest forms that I need to see. Show me a mirror reflection of my own potential and possibility. Give me the methods. Teach me the yogas. Teach me the meditations, please. And don't just don't one-sidedly lay down and just be nirvana as if it were apart from this world that I'm in. So one does that, ask them, turn the wheel of Dharma for me and stay with us forever. Don't leave. We know you're free. You could stay at the event horizon of the clear light as long as you wanted, but don't. Please be compassionate. And finally, whatever merit I do, I dedicate it to becoming Buddha as fast as possible for all sake of all living beings through the path and the yoga and the mandala of the time machine Buddha. You recognize all this in your sadhana, in the little verses that you recite. But these are the meanings that you want to put your mind through. Then you remember you're having been initiated, and you see past the discomforts and the sense of like distractions and people scratching themselves around you, trying to grab your seat, coughing, dust, whatever it all was, and you think of the mandala, whatever you can imagine, whatever you've seen, the three-dimensional computer simulations, any sort of picture of a three-dimensional house model, of the three body, body, speech, great bliss, body, speech, mind, palace. And imagine that is holographically around you. And then, whatever you can remember of it, first you go to this door, and then you go inside and circumambulate, then you're taken to that door, you get the body initiation, you get the speech initiation, you get the mind initiation, you get the intuition initiation. Each one you have a different form, You read the book, the Hopkins and Betsy Napper book, and you you know all the complications. Excuse me. But you don't, you just instantaneously just feel you're in that mandala, right? And then this Kālachakra, Father, Mother, main being, after streaming light to you and blessing you in all kinds of ways, and then the four goddesses coming, and the 10 Shaktis coming, and the fierce deities coming, and all anointing you with all this wonderful energy. You basically compress that into the actual mandala itself with the Kālachakra and all of the deities. They come and they merge with you. You become like a channel medium. Your own body turns into this Kālachakra, Father, Mother, yourself. And you are both of them. And you don't have to just, in the different sequences, that you were different kinds of Buddhas and so on in the past, but here you just be the whole thing. And then you become Kālachakra in the center of the mandala. You become aware of, like, by Amoga Siddhi in front of you, Ratnasambhava to a black Amoga Siddhi in front of your black face, a red Ratnasambhava to the right of your red face, a white Amitabha to the left of your, and with all his family and his woman and his family, and a yellow Vairochana behind you, and each one merged with the other one in a second form, so there's two forms of each of them around you. It's a bit, never mind, just a very colorful bunch of multicolored couples all around you in the mind mandala, and your 8 Shaktis around you in your mind mandala, and you are both the female and the male. You can alternate if you like. You can be both at once if that's not too complicated. You can be just a male or just a female, whatever you like. And then you can add any elaborations in there that you want. Before that, you can do that one where, let's see, quickly do that one where, just backtrack a little bit. We're moving around in the time machine, so don't worry. you would do this in a different order, but you have the 5-pronged Vajra, the green color in your crown, center of your crown chakra, central channel. You have your 17-prong Vajra that is white in your brow chakra, brow level, brain center chakra. You have a 32-petal red, 33-prong red Vajra in the throat chakra, central channel. You have a 9-prong Vajra in the heart chakra in the central channel. You have a 65-petal yellow Vajra in the center of your navel chakra, right on above the pelvic floor, standing on a sun disk. And you have intuition disc, rather, and you have a 33-petal chakra, Vajra, pronged Vajra, in the center of the central channel at the tip of your genital sensitivity. And those Vajras explode each in their own color. That's a blue one, the base one. And they all each explode with tiny replicas of those Vajras. And they explode in all directions and drive away any negative thing from your universe. And the whole around you is free and clear. And when you're feeling a little bit protected and secure, you're stable, you then can take the moon disk in your top of your head and you can shuck up and down your body like being in a transporter beam and purify even your ordinary meat space Kālachakra body, which is not really meat, it's just light. There's no viscera, there's no intestine, there's no heart, no belly, no lung, no kidney, no liver, etc. No spleen. So you can do that first, then you become Kālachakra in the mandala. And then you imagine in your heart center around the hung that the Om Ah Hum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Ya Hum Pe letters are arranged around a disc, which is a Kalagni disc, supernova disc, on top of a Rahu disc, on top of a sun disc, on top of a moon disc, on top of a lotus in the center of your central channel in the heart chakra. You can make that as huge as you need or small as you need to try to visualize it. And then you do your mantra. Like if you could do 108 in a particular short session, that would be good. So let's now do that all together. Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala. Just do it in your own time, but count around. Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Shambhala Vada Hum Pe Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala. All the 722 deities with you in your mandala are also repeating this, so it's echoing, and all you're saying it out of your 4 mouths actually. Your black front mouth, your red right mouth, your white left mouth, your yellow back mouth. Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala. Your Vishvamata is saying it too in her 4 faces. Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe 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 Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe. All the Shaktis are saying it out of their 4 faces. Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala Vada Hum Pe 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 Om Ahum Ho Hang Shambhala. While you're saying it, while you're saying it, you imagine that the wheel of the mantra in your heart chakra, at whatever size, is radiating powerful light rays in all directions, all rainbow multicolored. And these light rays, even a black light ray, are going everywhere, and they are turning all beings into Kālachakras, each one of them in their own mandala. And then when they are exalted in their own mandala and they are radiating light rays, then the light rays come back into your heart chakra and make your home letter and your Oma Homo Hang Shambhala more glowing, more powerful, more energized. Oma Homo Hang Shambhala Hambe, 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 Oma Hang Shambhala Hambe. Oma Hang Shambhala Hambe, Oma Hang Shambhala Hambe, Oma Homo Hang Shambhala Hambe. And practice inhaling while saying so you just do it without interruption. So when you're doing in short sadhana, what you do is you take the mandala triumph aspect of, in other words, triumphing, turning every being into a Kālachakra in their own mandala universe, and therefore themselves radiate outward and turning every other being into it, etc., like a vast flow of love in the form of infinitely repeating Kālachakra mandalas with Kālachakra father, mothers in it. So you're not the only Kālachakra. They also have the divine pride of being Kālachakra, father, mother, etc. And all the beings are exalted in that way, which is the mandala triumph. And then the action triumph, where the light energies go out, transmuting the addictions of ignorance, of hatred, of pride, of envy, and of greed, lust, and father, mother. I think it's always good to throw in at least 10 Om Prem Vishvamata Hompe, Om Prem Vishvamata Hompe. If you can, Om Ram Hrim Hum Hum Raswaha, Ram Hrim Hum Hum Raswaha, Ram Him Hum Hum Raswaha, which is kind of the chakra. It's the root mantra of the chakra. It's kind of Om Ram Hrim Hum Hum Raswaha. And then Om Shri Kālachakra Hompe, that one. But then the Om Prem Vishvamata Hompe that you say at least 10 times. Om Prem Vishvamata Hompe, 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 Om Prem Vishvamata Hompe. So the universal mother, because she is the void form, she's really it, it all happens through her. That's very important. And then you dedicate. Then you should dissolve the whole thing, and you let it all melt into pure light, and you let it, however, fuse with you, and then that mandala and those deities and that your own self as a Kālachakra is in your own heart center, because the microscopic, central channel center, heart center within the sixfold knot in normal, separated life, habitually separated life, is an infinite vast space. The more you go into micro, the more infinity unfolds in your heart. And the micro infinity, and in there all mandala can be there, and so you have a feeling that it's there, and then you are one face, two arm Kālachakra again, or one father, or one face, two arm Vishvamata, either one, blue bodied, like the beast in the X-Men comics. But you don't go around saying somebody, I'm Kālachakra, you're just your own personality. But you are that. So you sort of try to keep present your Kālachakra, cognitive dissonance of being Kālachakra in your mandala. And being out of your mandala, maybe helping beings and doing your ordinary stuff, trying to keep a memory of that. That's it. That's the sadhana. We did it. That's a short sadhana. And we still have time because I want to do one other thing in this last session. Justin, do me a favor. Would you go to the car? And I have a red jola in there that has a bunch of books in it. And there's this one book which is the fire puja thing. I want to explain to people what happens in the fire puja. Although actually, you don't need to bother. I can just tell you from memory. Now, what the fire puja is, okay? We make a fire there. We have a table with 12 different substances and objects, plus some kadaks and some flowers and some things. And what we do is we have some original invocation. And we invite Agni, the fire god Agni, the Vedic fire god, the Indian fire, not just Vedic, Indian fire god, Agni. The word ignition is just for Agni, that's the same thing. When I fly somewhere and land at night, and I look at the lit up city or whatever, I just see Agni. That's Agni. Agni is all over the place. And so we invite Agni, and we put a little kusha grass sitting mat for him on the edge of the hearth. And we draw a mandala at the base of the stack of wood, and which is then we invite Agni, the actual Agni, to be in that mandala, but we also invite Agni to sit on his goat with his cookie and his, the way he looks. He rides a goat always, Agni, and to be present. In the very like the Vedic thing. And then we do a round of the 12 substance offerings to Agni. And each substance connects to a certain type of purification. Like some purify against weakness, some purify against sickness, some purify against sin. Mustard seed does, chickpeas purify against weakness and give strength, etc. Each one has its own, rice purifies against poverty and gives wealth. So each substance has a certain byproduct, that it produces. And we offer them all to Agni, who is the fire once we light it. And he likes to drink the ghee, melted butter, and we pour melted butter in his mouth, and he blazes up in a jolly manner. And then we request Agni, who is also, remember, in the Kālachakra mandala. Both Mr. and Mrs. Agni are there in the speech and body mandalas. And those people in speech and body mandalas, although they look a certain way, like according to the picture, when they're in the mandala, they feel their Kālachakra. It's not like Kālachakra is more special than them. They feel they are Kālachakra. They're totally initiated and they're gods, so they're very quick to get it, actually. They're actually not so bad. They're just a little lazy about it because they're so cool, Or actually, Agni is so hot. So anyway, we then visualize that we mentally create in a creation stage, a Kālachakra universe in the heart center of Agni, who's crackling there as a fire, and who has been offered those offerings, who has transmitted those offerings. And we imagine that the Kālachakra deities, all 722, are in the mandala palace within the universe, in the heart of Agni. And we then go through another round of the 12 offerings through the tongue of Agni and through his, windpipe or whatever, his esophagus, and into his stomach. Or not into his stomach, but into the heart at his heart. And that's where the mandala is. And so we're making the offerings to all the Kālachakra deities and the mandala is complete inside the heart of Agni. And we finish that, and that's the key round, and then we finish that round. And then we dissolve that mandala, and then we then give Agni a thank you round of the 12 things, and then the dedication, etc., and we enjoy. And the way we do it in the Menla habit, when we've done a retreat with people who are even, whatever kind, even if it isn't a formal Kālachakra retreat, and And each set of offerings, we sort of pass around the little dish, and each person does a little bit of the offering. Whenever you do a full-scale retreat, you then make the offering as you're the one who actually is the main. You have the vajras and the bell, and you do the main thing. But since it's too awkward to try to do that, everyone participates in the way that we're doing it. Okay? So that's what we're going to do then, after lunch. Any questions? We have another few minutes for questions. Any questions? Yes. Microphone.
My question's about the Heart Sutra. Okay?
What about the Heart Sutra?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'll include the Heart Sutra in the front of what I said.
Right, but my question is about
yes.
the pronouns as they
about what?
The pronouns as they switch back and forth from he to she and she to he. And
well, in Sanskrit grammar, like in English, with words like mankind, mankind, or when you say man, it's supposed to include women, right? Females, and even neuters, androgynes. But people don't really think that, right? They think man, it's a chauvinist, it's a thing like that. So humankind is the PC thing to do, and actually a good thing to do. But we're not used to it, so some people, they just say mankind, they don't mind. Well, Sanskrit grammar has case endings that are masculine, feminine, neuter. And in the grammatical sutras of the Panini, the Ur-grammarian, the mentor of linguistics actually on the planet Earth, the masculine case stands for the feminine. So they say as well, So when the masculine case is used in a general sense, not for a particular person, masculine includes feminine. So we can do S/HE, for example. We could write that, but I prefer to alternate. And in the version you have, I might not have done where I'm alternating, but if you hear when I'm reading it, I'm alternating. She, he, she, There's only a few places where you have that third person pronoun, but I do it like that. And I try to do it when I write. And when in my Tantra book on the perfection stage of the Unexcelled Yoga Tantra by Tsongkhapa called The Brilliant Illumination of the Lamp, every time I put yogi, I put yogi/ni. Yogi ni. So it's both yogi. That's like a she-he thing because it's, if you alternate yogi and yogini, it would be too confusing to people. They would think you were meaning a specific one. So there's the masculine case, where the Neljo Ba in Tibetan also is the masculine case, ba instead of ma. They have Neljo Ma and Neljo Ba in Tibetan, that's masculine and feminine. But by Sanskrit grammar, it's supposed to include them both, but you wouldn't know that when you read it. So I try to do something. So alternating is what I like to do.
Okay, so you made a comment, and now I'm not.
But then the one thing, they themselves have a corrective from ancient time, however old the Heart Sutra is. From Mahayana point of view, Heart Sutra is 2,500, 600, 700 years ago. So Shariputra asks when any noble son, and he really says son.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
And when Avalokiteshvara for answers, he says with any noble son or noble daughter. He does say that. And there is that corrective from the less, because the dualistic Buddhism, I do believe, was more taught for the male Brahmin and Kshatriya, upper class people, who were the educated people, who were the first disciples, in a way, the surface disciples. And the Buddha, they are because India was very militaristic in Buddha's time. He was born as a general. The crown prince was educated in a West Point setting, not in a Harvard setting, not in an Amherst College setting or a Smith College setting, in a West Point setting. And so he was dealing, monasticism is the ultimate social antidote to militarism, without a doubt. And therefore, the main point was to get the men to be monks. That's why he wasn't that enthusiastic about the nuns, the bhikshunis, because they're more advanced, actually, which would no one but me will ever say that, probably amongst Buddhist scholars, because there's still a bunch of chauvinists. But they're more advanced, so they didn't need necessarily to drop out so completely. But it was fine if they did. And once it happened, they went in a herd, but he knew they would go in a stampede because of the patriarchal family structure was much more oppressive to women. And so they wanted to escape from that family structure and be free of it. And the early Bhikshunis, female mendicants, they sing the praises of the Buddha. Oh, I didn't have to cook lunch. I didn't have to pound the rice. My horrible husband isn't chasing me around the house. My mother-in-law is not giving me hell because I didn't have 3 sons yet, etc. You know, it's like, and maybe it isn't nirvana, but it's close enough. Thank you, Buddha. They write poems like that. But then he knew that would strain the tolerance of the dominant people of the society, which were the men, for whom the women are still slaves. Do you know the Marilyn Waring's book called Counting for Nothing, The Labor of Women? It's a marvelous anthropological, or sociological, I think. She's a sociologist in New Zealand, in some university in New Zealand. It's a wonderful book, but horrendously sobering about the state of our planet still today, you know, if you look really broadly, you know. And the male thing still controls everybody through militarism, and then militarism in your daily life, in the various forms of it, you know. Not only the defense budget, but the way we behave with each other. So, you know, privileging anger and aggression and so forth, and competitiveness, you know. So, I don't know why I launched into that, I forgot. But yeah, even in the Mahayana corrective, though, there are some Mahayana sutras where, you know, still they say, well, are you going to next life be a man so you can attain Buddhahood? You know, the Tara legend is connected to that. She says, hell no, I'm going to be a female Buddha, like, forget you guys, you know. But that's more exceptional, because even that literature is still in this culture, that is still written by men and managed by men, which is India, and still today. They got rid of Buddhism, and then the more chauvinistic Islamic culture showed up, and put them even backwards than where they were 1,000 years ago. And then the British Victorians, they showed up, a bunch of uptights, right? So, so that's the thing. Did you have a follow-up? No. Okay, another question. And Tantra and the Vajrayogini is the final corrective to that. But look who likes the Vajrayogini, our motorcycle guy.
Hello, my question is, could you speak a little bit about the planets in regard to...
About the planet?
Yeah, and how the planets, like Venus...
I was talking about the planet, but what about planet, in particular?
Planets, Venus...
Oh, the planets.
In relation to the Kālachakra.
And actually, sun and moon are considered planets, too. And Rahu, the eclipse planet, or the lunar node, I think astrologers will say, and the other lunar node, you know, the Rahu and Kalagni, the tail and, you know, the lunar nodes. And so they're deities. Sun and moon also are deities in that old cosmology. They're also planets, you know, right? And Sunday, Monday, as we still have in our popular, in our culture, Sunday, Monday, you know. The 7 days of the week are the planets, right? And they have same set of 7, and they add Rahu and Kalagni. They don't have Pluto and Neptune, I guess, or whatever it is. And but they have Rahu and Kalagni, so they have the same 9 actually. And they connect to the cycle of breaths in a day, because there are 21,600 breaths that we breathe are like a circuit, a solar and lunar circuit around the constellations, the 27 houses, I think there are, of the constellations that, you know, which are the different constellations. There's the 8 main, and the planets rule in those different ones. They have a whole astrology system that actually interconnects with what the Western people think is the Chaldean ones, you know, or Babylonian, and they think India did that. But that's because Western people always think everything happened in West Asia, Palestine, Egypt, and they don't realize everything really happened in India, and it probably spread to Mesopotamia from the Indus Valley, actually. Because the biggest alluvium in the ancient world in Eurasia was India, the Indus Valley. And they did trade by sea with Mesopotamia, which was a lesser alluvium. And they connected over the isthmus, to the Nile, which was also a lesser, 35 times smaller than the Indus Valley alluvium. And by alluvium, I mean a place that fertilizes itself every year and therefore can support a big population and therefore has cities, and temples become big cities and they get into pharaohs and stuff like that. But in the case of the Indus, which was the most wealthy of them, they had a female pharaohs, it seems. Nobody seems to know. They can't seem to figure out the language or anything of the Harappan, what they call civilization. But what they have found seems to have big mother goddesses, like they found in the Danube, and like the Chinese refer to as the Shang dynasty, and the time when was the Eurasian city-state cultures were female goddess-dominated, and probably female priest-dominated, and less violent, and so forth. And then nomad male guys came down about 5 to 10,000 years ago and started the current cycle of history that we are part of still, right? And the yearly months are in the body mandala, and the navel chakra, 64 petals are in the speech chakra. I think that's why, uniquely in Kālachakra, the throat chakra has 32 petals. In the other ones, it has 16, and there are 32 in the brain. But here, the speech one is very important, resonating with the navel chakra, 64 and 32. And the planets are out here, along with other various kinds of deities. And the 27 houses of the constellations are out here, and so on. And that part is very complicated. And we have to study the very difficult to understand 5th chapter of the Kālachakra Tantra, which is the perfection stage, to sort of figure out how the planets figure in the body, And therefore, Kālachakra has a big, not only astrology, but astronomy system. And even though the world model is a different one, and it's sort of, the Tibetans laugh about, we thought the world was flat, and His Holiness will say that to sort of give some solace to the Western astrophysicists. Oh, you guys have the right thing. But actually, their thing is relative too, about the planets, right? They're undiscovering planets, and they're not really planets, they're clumps of ice. So then we found another planet, and they're going on with their planets. They haven't really got it pegged and nailed. They do not.
We got a question from the live stream. We have a question from the live stream. Question was, how best can someone prepare for the Kālachakra?
Sorry?
How best can someone prepare for initiation, Kālachakra, say if there's another one coming, how best to prepare for the next Kālachakra or any initiation?
How best to prepare?
Yeah.
Well, best thing to prepare is read Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, or Way of the Bodhisattva. There are a number of translations in all languages. Find out His Holiness's commentaries on them. Flash of Lightning in the Dark of Night is a short one. There's some longer ones. And read that a lot. And read the 3 principles and meditate the 3 principles of the past, sort of lamrim kind of things, a lot. The lamrim, according to the majority order in the last 500 years in Tibet, everyone else, Patrul Rinpoche's Words of My Perfect Teacher is a lamrim, and all of the traditions have that. But that is considered the equivalent of like 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 things like that, if you really understand the whole lamrim, and the selflessness and the compassion, bodhisattva vow, and the renunciation and the transcendence. That's the best preparation. Then, if you read every book on the Kālachakra, and Tibet House, and the Center for Buddhist Studies at Columbia, and the American Institute of Buddhist Studies at the moment with the Center of Buddhist Studies at Columbia, all 3 together, have translated now 4 of the 5 chapters of the Kālachakra Tantra and its main commentary. And the 5th one is partially translated by a person called Newman, but never published other than as a PhD thesis. And it's only partially done because that deals with the planets, and even that in astronomy side is very complicated. But they make the yearly calendar with that, and they predict accurately eclipses. They predict them accurately. Of course, for India, because they were all in India. But they accurately predict that for India and above going toward the North Pole, which they think is the south side of the axial mountain in that cosmology. And they know exactly when it shows up, just as we do with our model. They're just as accurate. strangely, even though the model is different, and we've been flying around inside the model, so we think we know better, and we probably do. But we might not have the final thing. Actually, you can do a thought experiment on that, and the thought experiment is you can look this up, and I used to have a list, and I don't remember it all by heart, but we are actually, if we were at the equator on Earth, we're moving around in the rotation of the planet, where we think we're standing still. We're moving 1,000 miles an hour, because we go around 24,000 miles in one day. So we're going 1,000 miles an hour around the planet. But the other stuff is going with us, so we think we're standing still, right? Then the planet is going something like 66,000 miles an hour in orbit around the sun. Then the sun in the galaxy is going like 250,000 miles, something like that, inside the nebula, the galaxy. Then even some people presume to dare to say the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, is moving in relation to nebula in some other speed, huge bunch of relative speeds. So therefore, if you kind of try to visualize all these speeds, instead of thinking in a sort of vestige of terracentrism, that the sun is heliocentric, we're sun-centered, and it's standing still. And then we're sort of going around, but really we're standing still. The sun is just shining at us, and then we turn away from it at night and all this. But you take those relative speeds in a thought experiment, and Mars and Mercury and Neptune and these things, Jupiter, we're all like going, we're all a bunch of ribbons all wound around each other. So therefore, the idea that Mars affects your liver, that the sun affects your heart, etc., these kind of things that you have is not that far-fetched, really, because these giant electromagnetic bodies and gravity warping bodies are all zooming around with you in some incredible, what is the final ultimate relative motion of it all? You completely get lost of that. And there's no ultimate relativity thing. The Westerners are so desperate, we can't see any planet beyond there, so there's only so and so many planets and stars in the universe. Nonsense. They just only can see so far because the others are running away too fast. And then dark energy is 97% of it all in dark matter, and you can't even see that. So who knows what's going on, really? So these older explanations, they have some value, is all I'm saying. They are relative. They may not have value for certain things. If you want to send a ship to Mars, because you're a billionaire, tech billionaire, and you're feeling isolated and freaked out by your fourth trophy wife doesn't really like you, and therefore you want to go to Mars with Arnold, and have your eyes bug out and have a big fan blow and beat up people and whatever. So silly, Never get there. We have to fix this one. This is the best one anyway. This is where Shambhala is coming. So, any other question? Yes.
I have one. Yesterday, you spoke a great deal about karma.
I can't.
You spoke a great deal about karma, and that was a very helpful answer. So my question is, the Dalai Lama speaks a great deal about happiness.
Yes.
And that happiness is our natural state.
Yes.
So can you reconcile that?
Can I?
Reconcile happiness and karma, the suffering.
Sure. Well, right, the happiness that seems to be a satisfaction of one or another of the addictions, like the addiction of lust, and happiness there is like joining with the desired object in some way, or the addiction of hatred is like crushing some object in some way. These kind of happinesses are called the suffering of change, because they don't last. The happiness of encountering reality, of nirvana, is the happiness. And don't think, in the non-dual thing, don't think you are apart from nirvana. Your cells in your body know that they're in nirvana. That's why they keep recharging when you sleep and you get out of their way. Your consciousness of dissatisfaction and worry and depression and anxiety stops bothering them all, and you're in the clear light, And then they charge up because that's connection with reality, which is happiness, bliss. Happiness which is not, it's a happiness which is not changeable because it's not possessed. It's an infinite energy that you give yourself to, and therefore you are all of it. You give yourself to it, so you become all of it. And we all know that. We all have something that wells up from inside, from the heart, without necessarily getting anywhere. It's like, and it leads to, that bumper sticker, random acts of kindness. It's like a random feeling of contentment. It doesn't really come from, but that random feeling of contentment is actually our health. That's actually the health of the body. The body knows it's there. The elements in the body, they know. There are some weird things creeping around in the body. There's like microbiome, there's bacteria, there's little mechanism, virus-like mechanisms. They're all out there like freaking out and trying to like eat something, and therefore discontented. But what keeps them, what overwhelms their wish to kind of destroy that, like become cancer and like destroy their host by addictive greed, is the sense of the infinity of each micro, subatomic, non-particle energy. And the awareness of that. And that creates gravity, that creates electromagnetism, that creates all of that's the energy there. But being it doesn't do anything because it's infinite. Everything's already done from that perspective. But the things that are not infinite sort of just get their toe in it mentally. And the human being is the one who can win their way back to it most effectively. Gods also, too, actually. But they're just lazy. They don't bother because they're too indulged. And so that's what His Holiness is referring to, the art of happiness. Not the happiness of, I'm the winner, I'm the president. We can see that isn't happiness. Didn't last for one split second, did it? Not even a split second. No satisfaction there. And the billionaires, they don't have satisfaction. They need another billion. Go ask them. Go ask them for 20 grand to build a building. Oh, I don't know, like whatever, it's so important. But 10 grand's like 50 cents for a billion. But no, that's important. And they don't have 3, Warren Buffett has 40. Gates has 70. Now Putin has 50. Come on. So that's not what it is. That's called the suffering of change. Okay? Yes.
Yes, I want to ask a question about sleep yoga and
you do what?
I want to talk about sleeping and being in the clear light, and I wonder if both the deep sleep and your REMs and your dreaming state, are you in the clear light for both? That's one question. And second,
if you're
in the clear light both while you are dreaming and while you're having non-dreaming state.
Of course, and not only that, right now.
Okay.
Where do you think you are now?
Okay, so another question. If we manage to be able to lucidly dream, how can we advance our Kālachakra practice while lucidly dreaming?
You dream up a mandala in Kālachakra. Actually, see, that's the purpose of the creation stage. If you become adept in creating the Kālachakra universe and moving yourself into it meditatively. So meditation is like a dream, it's like a bardo of meditation. It's one of the 6 bardos, for example, betweens, one of the 6 betweens. And because you can, in meditation, you can sort of do out-of-body stuff at the advanced levels when you get really concentrated. And a little bit meditation is kind of out-of-body. Of course, it's done in an escapist way in the sort of main level of people who just meditate without knowing anything ahead of time. They, of course, feel a little buzz from meditating because they're actually trying to escape from their anxiety-producing environment. And that, of course, won't work really long run, so that's not even the most important kind of meditation. And even you can become addictive and you can become stuck in it and dull your mind and like, oh, Kālachakra, oh, no, I don't know that, oh, no, I can't learn anything. You can't learn anything. So there's actually a negative effect of too much meditating if you haven't learned something. what you're doing, that's why the Zen people are so brilliant. The six patriarchs and all the great Zen masters, you know that story? Where within the real top tradition of the Zen people in China, the guy was meditating. He tells the story. Baijiang was his name. And his great teacher was the great master Ma. And he was meditating in an old ruined temple. And he was like, icicles in his beard in the winter and whatever. He didn't care. Just, And then at a certain stage, Master Ma came out of the little huts that they had up in that center and would sit near him and would pick up a piece of tile from the broken temple and take another thing and rub on the tile. Scrape, scrape, scrape. And then he would meditate. It was extremely irritating and distracting, but he would be using it as a thing. I'm not going to be distracted by that. So then finally, it did get to him. He tells the story, and he says, he distracts his meditation, and he asks his teacher. He says, "Why are you scraping on that tile?" And the master says, "I'm making a mirror." And then he says, "You can't make a tile into a mirror by rubbing it with a rock." And then the master says to him, "You can't make a Buddha by meditating." That's the Chan, which the name Chan comes from the Sanskrit word dhyana, which means meditate. Only wisdom creates liberation and enlightenment. Only wisdom. Meditation is just a tool in deepening that wisdom. But if it doesn't have the wisdom to deepen, it will deepen the ignorance. And this accounts for all these scandals in all these Dharma centers in Asia before even America. They meditated a lot. And then what do they discover after 20 years of really following the mind? I'm the greatest. Well, that's why they started with naive egotism, selfishness. And then they become selfish, and then they're pain in the neck. But pain in other places too. Very often. We see here when we hear about the scandals. Okay? So why did I launch into that? What's the question? I'm sorry. What's the question? Oh yeah, clear light. So the point is, that's a great question, because this is clear light. This is emptiness. Matter is emptiness. Emptiness is matter. Clear light is only the event horizontal way of expressing emptiness as not nothingness. It's pure light. And light has, even materialist science has the same paradox. They just sort of don't think about it because they have nothingness waiting. But the speed of light in the standard model based on general relativity, et cetera, is 186,000 miles per second, although you know something has never been measured as that. So it's something nearby it. And Rupert Sheldrake has a great thing in his book where he goes in England to the Bureau of Standards. And he says, how come it's 186,000 miles? Because nobody's ever measured it that. It's 185, 990, something like that. It's never measured 186,000. And then the guy there, the officer in charge, says, well, they're all wrong. Well, how do you know they're wrong? Well, because we say it's 186,000. That's how we know they're wrong. That's an evidence-based science, right? That's a dogma. But the point is, why is that an absolute? Because mass becomes infinite at that speed. And by the way, that speed is measured in relation to what? There's no ultimate frame of reference in the universe. So mass becomes infinite simply means that it becomes too subtle to find. So there would be no light because every light would be infinite, and we would be blinded, all of us. We'd all disappear. And, we see things. So light, we are light. We're interacting with light. We're interacting with a bunch of infinite mass. But we think we have a finite mass, and it's measured against what? And the speed of light is measured against what? It's apart from you going 55 miles an hour or 75 miles an hour down the thruway. 186,000, wow. But that's just the boundary. That's what they're describing is the boundary between the form realm, the Brahma heaven, and the realm of infinite space, the medium of infinite space where there's no more sense of volume. But mind is there. And there's very subtle energy, too subtle for them to find. Disappears when they look for it. Now they're calling it dark energy and dark matter. Now this is 97%. They don't know what they're talking about, actually. In fact. They just assert it, and you have to believe it. Like any high priest, Like, you know the joke. I've told you the joke, the theologian's joke that I learned from Langdon Gilkey at the University of Chicago, a great theologian. The preacher who is asking the congregation, now, y'all, I want to know if y'all can tell me what faith is. You know, you all pious, believing in Jesus Christ. What is faith? Tell us what is faith. No silence. Nobody says anything. Come on now, y'all. Tell me faith. Nobody says anything. Then little Johnny in the front row is dislocating his shoulder. He's doing he's stretching the muscles, whatever it is. Psoas muscle. And so he keeps ignoring him. Then finally he says, okay, little Johnny, you know what faith is? Why don't you tell all these good folks what faith is? Ain't you all ashamed of yourself? Only little Johnny thinks he knows. Johnny, okay, little Johnny, what's faith? You know what it is? I know what it is, preacher. Okay, will you tell the good folks? He says, yes, I will, preacher. Faith is believing what you know ain't true. That's what, and they're scientism. Actually, Houston Smith made a great expression for it. He calls it scientism. And it's the religion of dogmatic materialism. And it's holding back science because the method of science is awesome. It's great. It's the Buddhist method. You trust your experience. And to them, that's only measuring something. And they don't want to have to measure something with their mind. You know, their intuition, they're not going to trust it. And in a way, that's good because there can be kind of defiled intuition by the ignorant person who hasn't separated their ignorant attitude from their actual experience there. And they think it's experience when actually they're dominating it by a false concept. So anyway, I'm sorry, but I don't know what that's all about. But so real happiness, real clear light. We are clear light. That's what we're made of. That's why we have these moments of random, sudden feeling of contentment for no reason, even in the middle of a problem. Even crying, we suddenly laugh. Where is it we find the resources to do that? We are the resources to do that. And this is nirvana, actually. And ignorance means that creates a world that isn't nirvana. But that means we don't know. If we knew what we were, we would know this is clear light. And clear light would not destroy. Emptiness does not destroy anything. Nothingness is presented as a destroying of something. We fear nothingness. We fear death because we think everything will be destroyed. We lose our sense of control, and we're nervous if we don't have control. Something bad will happen to us. We're not really afraid of nothing. They pretend to themselves, the high priests of materialism. They pretend. Thank you, Beth, later. I can't. We pretend to ourselves that we're afraid of nothing. They convince themselves, and they think people who are aware of their future existence, and that in a way that they are these infinite beings, because they're clear light, and they want to be enjoying the clear light in a good form. And they think they're just chicken. They're chicken to be the good French existentialists with the Gauloise over here, and a bon vin, some Calvados over there, and whatever, you know, filet de sole. And then on the left bank, Le Dumago, you know, and I'm ready to be nothing. And that's really brave. That's not brave. You have a toothache, you want to be nothing. You want to be anesthetized. And that's relief. Being nothing is relief when you have pain. And it's relief mentally for fear of pain. So it's a total blind, and that's the worst blind faith. The one thing that nobody will ever have evidence for the existence of is nothingness. Nobody will ever find it. And common sense tells anybody that. And yet those guys go around, that's... Even these guys who are writing books now, who've been talking with the Tibetans, they write these books like The Enlightened Gene, they say. And then another one wrote a book like Buddhism is True, one scientist, biologist. And then right in the preface he says, well, I don't mean reincarnation. No, wait, no, they don't need all that old religious fanatic stuff. They pretend that's blind faith because they act like people who remember previous lives are just crazy. And they're not crazy believing they're going to be nothing at death where there's no evidence, and yet they're supposed to be scientists. And no one's ever discovered nothing. They never will. And they can know that right off the top. But do they? No. They go around believing in nothing. That's crazy. That's psychotic. And such people are reckless and irresponsible, furthermore. That's why the planet is a mess. because their culture their thing has become popular culture of the elites who have all the buttons, own everything. Right? It isn't just because of some greedy oil guy. They're just secondary to the basic idea that we don't care because it doesn't matter. Go for it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Recklessness. You're not reckless if you're there forever. You're going to take care of every little bit of it. You're going to make it the best mandala for everybody. And you don't want anybody else freaking out because you're stuck with them. There's enlightened self-interest in that. And the great thing is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be too bombastic, I apologize. But I'm just saying, because we're ending, So I'm saying we are the clear light. And that's the consolation prize. Knowing that is the consolation prize. Imagining it. You can't really know it yet until you know it, but you can imagine it. And then learn all the definition. And challenge all the things that make you think it's not so. To get after your ignorance, criticize all of the conditioning. And then the consolation prize is when we know we're clear light. When we've done the creation stage and the perfection stage, and we have reached communion, which means unity with everything and yet allowing everything to be itself, not trying to own any of it. Giving ourselves, union with it by giving ourselves to it all. Not destroying a single thing. That's nirvana, and that's the clear light. That's emptiness as clear light. And at that time, I was always clear light, of course. This is not a created thing. This is the way it has always been. And therefore, when I was sitting at Menla at 1139.2236511, whatever, on planet Earth, in the year blah blah, and whatever it is, and Mars and Jupiter were there, and the other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was already clear light. And then, so my feeling of antsiness, wanting to go for lunch, get on the bus, go to New York, get on the plane, all of that was like, unnecessary. I mean, I could do all of that, but just like clear light, moving happily, like a dream, easy going, Very careful not to run into anything, because even though it's a dream, the metal part of the dream is not pleasant when it touches soft flesh and so forth. So I'm going to stay on my side of the road very carefully and very alertly. And I'll have that zinging happiness that is itself, doesn't have to come from anywhere or go anywhere. And then all my previous existences to infinity will become completely accessible to me. And I will revise my experience of being at Menla at 1141 with that guy talking interminably and doing what's called an inconceivable liberation. It says that a bodhisattva in the inconceivable liberation can make a moment seem like an eternity. And that, therefore, all boring professors must be bodhisattvas in the inconceivable, since their lectures are like, people are passing out in their lectures. And also an eternity seemed like a moment. And so that's when when we're in nirvana, we'll be in nirvana now. When we reach it then. But it's our knowledge structure that makes the now and then different. For Buddha, then is now. All the thens are now. All our thens are now. For all the Buddhas. So therefore, they're with us all the way to true. And so we are on optimal path in that light. So that's my consolation prize. Okay? My sore back, my cramp in my left knee, my cartilage destruction from playing soccer and lacrosse, and bad karma of smashing the Andover guy with my cross stick over the head. And I'm actually really in nirvana. And that every bone and cartilage and stem cell knows it's nirvana. Stem cells are just those that are more aware of nirvana. So they're more resilient. That's all. Okay? Thank you very much, everyone. Now we have to make a dedication. Always at the end of anything you've done, if there's anything good about it, you say, Gewa di nyurdu dag. Say in Tibetan. Gewa di nyurdu dag. Duchi kolo trubjorne. Semjentamsi Deisa. Tandanyodu Trubasho. So it means by the virtue of this, by the skillfulness of this activity, may I become the Kālachakra, and may I place all sentient beings in that exalted state. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Bob. Dr. Thurman.
I wish I could teach in German.